Welcome to the Coach Debbie Potts Show, where high performers learn how to stop guessing and start aging stronger, not slower. Your host is Coach Debbie Potts, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, metabolic health coach, and host of this show. Here, we dive into the why behind fatigue, stubborn weight, hormone chaos, gut issues, and declining performance. Using real data, functional lab testing, metabolism analysis, and simple daily habits that actually move the needle. Whether you're an endurance athlete, an executive, or simply committed to becoming your strongest future you, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Coach Debbie Potts Show. I'm your host, Debbie Potts. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. Big, long word, why we just say FDN for short. And also, I did functional nutritional therapy practitioner training. I'm a metabolic health coach. I do metabolism testing. And I'm a retired endurance athlete that used to compete in Ironman triathlons and loved to do Ironman Hawaii. And I did marathons and Boston marathons and all that long fun stuff until I got burned out, broken down by body systems, adrenal exhaustion, HPA axis dysfunction, cell danger response, whatever you want to call it, back in, 2013. So many years ago, but ever since I had my health issues where I thought, what the heck happened? Why did I go from top performing age group athlete to feeling exhausted, gaining 30 pounds in 3 months? Not being able to do anything in the afternoon but take a nap, and I'd be going to sleep at night and wide awake at 2 a.m. in the morning staring at the ceiling, frustrated, creating more stress. So today, fast forward to 2026, as I record this, I have been on a mission since my own experience to be the practitioner I needed back then. No one could help me. I got about 8 different practitioner, doctors, experts, naturopath, Chinese medicine. I was trying it all. And I even had an acupuncturist to say, you're getting older. I was 42 years old. I had a doctor say, you just need antidepressants. I saw endocrinologist. It just said, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just getting older. And then I saw naturopaths, functional medicine doctors that gave me the right lab test, but they just gave me a bunch of supplements and retest again and spend more money on lab tests and then take more supplements. Well, I realized from my own journey, N=1 experiment, I'm a unique person, that I needed to take a different approach and work on the whole me to be fit and healthy from the inside out, which is why this podcast has shifted over the years from being originally, we started this in 2012, talking about eating fat to burn fat. Being a low carb endurance athlete, the podcast was called Fit, Fat, Fast. And then it switched as John Smith, the original co-host that started the show, left me, and I continued on because I love to share information and help other people be their best self as I continue to learn more myself. I called the podcast Shut the Front Door for a moment. No one, I thought it was funny. It was something we figured out a name on a road trip up to Whistler to go skiing one year. And then I was working with some mentors talking about, well, just call it the low carb athlete. Well, I felt that I was pigeonholing myself into saying carbs are bad. I was all about zero carbohydrates, and that was not my platform. It was more strategic carb timing, but carbohydrates from nature. And also, as I get older, I'm finding I am still training, but I'm not racing. And I found that so many athletes that are competing in endurance sports, they just were not interested in really being fit and healthy from the inside out. The people that are listening to the podcast that reach out seem to be the ones that are experiencing that excessive chronic stress, and they're having this internal breakdown that I talk about in all these different podcast episodes. And so many people that are high performers, they're motivated to learn how to be their best self. And as I reach suddenly middle age, I just turned 50 and now I'm turning 55 this year, that I'm really shifting to be doing what we can do in middle age to be our best self in the future. So we can thrive as we age and not struggle. Part of that motivation to focus on this area is that just because you exercise doesn't mean you're fit. A lot of athletes I know of, they're on the other side of the bell curve. They're doing too much of everything, which was my own experience. I was doing low heart rate work, but I was doing probably what I'm learning now is AMPK dominance and putting my body into sympathetic dominance and putting my body in survival mode so I couldn't build muscle. I wasn't able to feel safe so I could heal and repair. And so we have this whole breakdown internally when we're doing too much of anything. And as FDN practitioners, we talk about excess chronic stress and internal chronic stressors that all accumulate and overfill that beaker of stress. We call hidden stressors. Hidden stands for hormones, immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy system, and nervous system. And looking at how we can improve this. Now, the other side of my motivation to focus on being fit and healthy as we age from the inside and out is watching my parents and family age. I lost my dad, as I always tell you, it'll be 4 years ago this June. And really looking at what happened in his older life, that he died too early. He just turned 80. And my mom is now turning 85 this year, and watching since my dad died, what has happened to her own body. She's lost weight that she needed to lose weight, but I can see her muscle just atrophying, sarcopenia, and how important it is to keep moving as we age and to do balance training, strength training, mobility, posture. How many people at all ages are hunched over and they have that scrolling phone kyphotic posture that we get to have even at younger age, looking at our cell phone or devices all the time. So that's a long-winded intro to talk about my mission, talking about the holistic method that I created in 2015, 8 elements to be fit and healthy from the inside out. And then the last year and a half ago, I started working on the future you, creating that vision of how you want to live life in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, from, I think it's Dan Hardy, talking about visualization. And so it's led me down that path to create the future you blueprint. What can we do today to be even better tomorrow? Why are we not striving in middle age to live our best life, our second half of our life, when we're able to, when we financially been working and putting money away every month, every paycheck to have a good quality life in retirement? But what are we doing to not just financially invest in our future self into retirement, but invest in our health? And this is what I don't understand. People don't do more of when we're striving to have this good life later on, is we want to retire young and go live. I'm just looking at living in Spain for a month and work remote and maybe start to work part-time and enjoy cycling trips in the mountains and doing things we can do in our 50s and 60s and 70s that we're not going to maybe do in our 80s, and live life to the fullest for sure. So I came up with looking at different patterns I see with people doing my PNOE metabolism testing. All these people at different ages, including these 2 girls that were in their 30s, some in their 40s. And I started to see patterns. Why are people having slower metabolism? Why are they not burning fat at rest? And at different exercise intensity levels on the exercise test, I didn't see a lot of efficiency, fat burning efficiency, and good crossover ranges. So I started to dig a little deeper and think about these patterns. I talked about sympathetic nervous system dominance. So one pattern, AMPK versus mTOR we talk about, and people doing everything to be shifting them in that AMPK dominance. And then looking at patterns. Do we have low mTOR? Do we have a combination of low mTOR, AMPK dominance, and sympathetic dominance? And then I started to realize as we age, what changes and what we can do about it, and how much of it is it related to what I call the F.L.O.W method foundation. The F.L.O.W foundation is what we're talking about in this series, and this will be eventually, if I stop talking, part 2 of the F.L.O.W series, talking about freeing the nervous system, the role of the vagus nerve, talking about the lymphatic system, how important it is for the lymph to go up and pick up the garbage, and how important it is for the bile and liver to pick up that garbage, cycle it, clean it through the wash cycle, and rinse out through our drainage pathway. So we need good waste removal. And I wanted to share this information with you, and hopefully you can share this with other friends and family members that are health optimizers. Maybe they are exercising every week, but they're not optimizing their sleep. They're not prioritizing stress management, recovery days. They're not working on not just what they eat, but how they eat, how they digest and break down and absorb the food they're eating. So this is all going to connect together, and I wanted to break it up in short episodes. So let's talk about the Train First series, F.L.O.W signals, and what we can do today to be the best future you. Now, last episode, we explored one of the most important foundations, I think, in health and for healing. This is a big aha for me this past year. Really understanding probably what happened to me in my early journey of having my health breakdown and not being able to race anymore and have to work so much harder on everything is because our body will not fully heal until it feels safe. So everyone that was trying to help me with my health issues, they were not able to do it because I was not making the changes to get my body to feel safe. Now, 2020, well, October 1st, 2019, I did close my Fitness Forward studio, health and wellness studio in Bellevue, Washington. That was a big stressor for me. It was constant work, whole nother story. And then, you know what happened in March 2020? Well, we decided to move, and June 19th, we moved to North San Diego to improve our quality of life. And I pretty much had to start over my career the last 5 years, 6 years we've been here now. But that was that quality of life move that last few years, even though I haven't been working financially as I need to be, but I've also been learning a lot that our body needs to feel safe. And so we're talking about how symptoms are often not random that our body's telling us. It's crazy thinking how smart the body is and how it's communicating. So we're talking about these signals and our body sending signals and how it communicates together when we have signs and symptoms of fatigue, bloating, inflammation, recovery. And as an FDN practitioner, we do lab testing. We test and not guess. But as a nutritional therapy practitioner, we're working on the foundations, looking at those signs and symptoms. What are they clues for and how they correlate with the whole you? And as an FDN practitioner, I wanted to be able to do the lab testing when possible, depending on people's budget, so we can look at this whole picture and put the missing pieces of a health puzzle back together. When people have poor recovery from workouts, that's another sign. When their hormones are in chaos, it's not just middle age, but that's giving us clues. If their sleep disruption is an issue, that's your body sending signals. It's communicating, sending you a message. If you have stubborn weight gain, can be another sign. The body's always adapting to the signals it receives. So if the nervous system, the immune system, your gut, your microbiome, your hormones, your mitochondria, and the brain, they're constantly exchanging information. And it's pretty crazy when you start diving in deep and going, whoa, the brain is always asking these questions. And the gut actually is sending more messages back than the brain sends the body. So the brain will send out a message. Are we safe? Do we have enough energy? Is inflammation under control? Is digestion supported? Are we able to start repairing and rebuilding? Do we need to defend and conserve? What's going on? Because what we're really talking about is this survival physiology that I am figuring out, that I was probably in that for years until I moved and left my life in Seattle to North San Diego. Survival physiology always takes priority over optimization physiology. So this is why I started to think about this. When all these clients I started to see a pattern of high performers in their Panoia metabolism testing and looking at their labs. And instead of just treating people with a bunch of supplements and phases, I've realized that we need to work on something first. Build this foundation. Energy before effort, safety before fat loss, and we talked about capacity before intensity. So I can't help myself or help you if the body's feeling overwhelmed, and adding more stuff, more force can just be added stressors to your stress beaker. And this is why I think so many people in our space that were promoting the 16-8 fasting and 3-day fast and doing HIIT training and doing these protein sparing diets or 5-day fasting, detoxing, doing all these different supplements, adding more stimulation, it wasn't working, especially in middle age when we have so many stressors externally in our environment, but also family. If you have kids and you have adult parents to take care of, the body doesn't need more force. So what I've figured out is that we need to create safety and give us a signal saying I'm safe. So that's what we kind of went over in the talk last week, part 1, if you want to go back and find that. The F.L.O.W foundation is really important part of healing and repairing and being your best self. Even if you don't have any big problems that you think of, but we always have areas of opportunity. We can identify when we test, but at least know you can be better than you are today and not settle for this, oh, I'm aging, this is my new normal. Because once we understand the role of feeling safe, then we want to ask, what allows my body to shift from this survival mode so we can go into repair mode? And what I keep thinking about and coming down to is the word flow. When I started to interview different people on the lymphatic flow, on nitric oxide, blood flow, when I was diving into all this research on bile flow for clients, what are we missing? Are people getting the garbage taken out? Are they constipated? Do they have diarrhea? What's going on? But flow is not about exercise. It's not about moving. It's really more about physiological flow. And coming up with this movement, as I mentioned, flow of the blood, the lymph, the bile, oxygen, but also that's moving waste, moving our hormones, our nutrients, our immune cells, our microbes. I always think poop out, but it's their metabolites, so short chain fatty acids, butyrate, we talk a lot about, nerve signals, and just movement of these messages. It's that swamp versus a river analogy. Stagnant physiology is going to create stagnant health. So I came up with the focus of this flow foundation, this flow method, because we start jumping to these in-depth protocols too early, too fast. So the body has intelligent signaling network. Every second, trillions of biochemical messages are moving throughout the body. Hormones are these signals. We talk about neurotransmitters. You've heard of cytokines. We hear all the time about peptides every day. Electrolytes help carry signals. The vagus nerve, I love to talk about, transmits signals. And even gut bacteria produces signaling molecules. Your body is similar to a massive biological internet system. Think of how every organ and every cell is communicating nonstop. And when the communication flows clearly, the body adapts pretty efficiently. But when signaling becomes disordered, blocked, inflammatory, we have congestion, we feel overwhelmed, your body just feels stuck, stiff, our body is getting a message. These symptoms begin appearing downstream because the body is shifting its priorities. So going back to what I said, the river versus the swamp, I think of the body when I learned in my programs about the lymph and bile. Think of the flowing river. It stays oxygenated. It's fresh water. It's adaptive and it's alive. But now imagine that green, stinky, smelly swamp. Like our waterfall in our backyard right now has been turned off because we have to clean it. So it's been off for a week and it just stinks whenever I walk by it. When the water stops moving, as our waterfall, we have our backyards, our upper yard, and we have this beautiful waterfall. Why I wanted to buy the house. It flows down to our back of our house. And so we see all this debris is accumulated. Think about the oxygen has dropped because the water's not moving. And so the waste builds up. There's this foamy green, whatever, something on top of it I saw yesterday. And the microbalance, if I tested the water, is probably very different. And the environment around it becomes more stressed. And I haven't heard the frogs at night as much lately. So I'm sure they're not happy with it. But this is the same thing that can happen inside your own body. So when I think about blood flow, the lymph, the bile, the oxygen delivery, when we talk about digestion, peeing, pooping, eliminating those toxins, or even the vagus nerve, the nervous system signaling, if any of this becomes impaired, think of what's going to happen downstream. What is that telling me when I'm doing my health investigation for clients? Do I see clues and correlation to a stagnant, swampy movement of their body, not lack of movement, and connect that to inflammation? They have fatigue, they have swelling. So we have all these symptoms. They have recovery from workouts. They have brain fog. They can't think clearly. They're not going to the bathroom regularly every day. When they eat, it doesn't feel good. They're not digesting their food properly. Their energy levels are down because their mitochondria is stressed. We talk about cell danger response. Our immune system, our metabolism slows down. And that's what I started to see when I did Pinoy resting metabolism tests. Their metabolism is slower than it should be. Their nervous system was more wired in that sympathetic dominance pattern. And so I started to put this together when I did clients' nutritional therapy assessment on the intake forms. They have all these signs and symptoms. And I started to see patterns. And that's why I created the F.L.O.W Foundation. Because what I've learned from working with clients and with doctors I've done contract work for their patients, because we need movement before optimization. Before we do a big, heavy detox, we find they have dysbiosis, parasites, H. pylori, all this going on in their gut. When I do a stool test, functional lab testing, we need to have drainage before we do anything. Before we add any intensity, we need to make sure we have capacity. Before we try to improve their fat burning, we need to make sure they are safe. We can't burn fat if we're in sympathetic dominance. Before we can heal, the body needs to know it's safe enough to move resources into repair. We talk about muscle protein synthesis and mTOR versus AMPK. So it all connects together, but we talk about that metabolic chaos to restore the body back to homeostasis and getting the body's own innate intelligence to work to find metabolic harmony. So all the players in the orchestra are making music, beautiful harmony together. So something I'm looking forward to in a few months is meeting and listening to Dr. Robert Navio in San Diego at a functional medicine conference coming up this August. The cell danger response. I learned this from Ari Whitten years ago when I was struggling with my so-called, I thought, adrenal exhaustion is what we thought it was. Everyone talk about adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion. But looking at connecting this fascinating concept in modern physiology of why the body stays stuck. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday on cell aging response theory and low thyroid and how the body is just freaking amazing. So researcher Robert Navio described the cell aging response theory years ago as an ancient protective survival program. It's activated when your cells sense threat. But for me, as an endurance athlete competing in Ironman Hawaii, marathons, 50K trail runs, all in 1 year, I do that every year. Infections, toxins, trauma, inflammation, oxidative stress I was creating from that workout. So my overtraining, sleep, emotional stress, all this can be a threat. And those threats, I said, all come in together. They're sending the same message together, one big message. And the cells are asking, again, is there danger? Should we repair or do we defend ourselves? Do we have enough energy on board? Is our environment safe? The mitochondria play a big role in this process. Most people, we think of mitochondria as just creating our ATP, those energy factories. But what's crazy fascinating, at least to me, is that these mitochondria not just make energy, but they also play a role in sensing our safety, our environment. The mitochondria are thought to monitor our oxygen availability, your nutrient status, inflammation, toxins, danger signals, stress chemistry, microbial metabolites, immune activation. But think about what happens if the environment is not safe. When the environment is just right, we feel safe. The mitochondria support making that ATP. They create more energy. The mitochondria help with repair, regeneration, adaptation, resiliency. But anytime the environment feels dangerous, the mitochondria can shift into what's called defense mode. And I always say this analogy of your cell phone, the low power mode when your battery's running out in your phone. Your phone's not broken. It's conserving energy when it perceives any strain. And so your cells do something similar. Your cells can reduce energy production. They can increase inflammatory signaling. They can alter metabolism, change communication patterns, conserve resources. And guess what? They prioritize defense over any repair. So think of it, if that is short term, that's good. That's the right thing to do, right? But what if we get stuck here? When the problems start to happen, when the danger cells never fully resolve. And I always wonder if what happened to me. The body can feel trapped in this protection physiology. I wasn't able to exercise. I was chronically fatigued, inflamed, gut dysfunction problems. I had big red flags on my GI map stool tests I did over the years. I would have injuries, couldn't recover from them. My body just felt burned out and broken down. My hormones started to go wacky and I was only 42. It's just the beginning. And my resiliency was poor. Heart rate variability testing. I was doing Sweet Beat Life, HRV testing, beta test for 30 days nonstop. And I was tracking what worked and what didn't work, what could improve and strengthen that vagus nerve. And so all of this can be that cell danger response. Not that my body is getting older. It's not broken down. This isn't my new normal. It was just that my body adapted. So that's why I love to teach on the podcast, my platform, and with my clients in the right order of operations based on their investigation, is that if their internal train is overloaded with all these different danger signals that we can identify when we do our timeline, our investigation, our health history forms, signs and symptoms, our nutritional therapy intake form, if the nervous system, the mitochondria, are not functioning as they should at optimal levels, we can see that we might have these danger signals being sent and send the signal that the environment is unsafe right now. So when I do the health investigation, we may see danger signals being sent out being a result on people's lab tests as high LPS levels, high endotoxicity. They might have more mold exposure symptoms. Some people don't react to the mold, other people really react. Blood sugar roller coasters, chronic infections, constipation. The list goes on, gut inflammation, bile flow. So I started to wonder, okay, why are these people having so many problems? They can't sleep, they're low in all these nutrients. What's their background? What's happening? What do we see? And instead of what I learned is that we can't just say what supplements kills the pathogens. What nutrition plan should we do to burn fat the fastest for this client? What workout can I write them to build muscle the fastest for them to get the metabolism up by building muscle? Or, what detox program is going to pull the toxins out the fastest? What binder do I use and products as Cellcore, Biocidin, Biobotanicals? Instead, what I've learned is that I need to make sure this client is ready. Their body needs to have the capacity to digest their food, to break it down, to absorb it, to have blood flow circulating, send oxygen in. They're able to have good detox pathways, phase 1, 2, and 3, and eliminate those toxins. We have good drainage pathways. They are ready and able to feel safe enough so they can repair and recover. And that's what I work with on clients, talking about this train first method. This is part of the F.L.O.W Foundation. The F.L.O.W Foundation we can talk about another time, more in depth on each one. F.L.O.W. First we talk about the nervous system, neural flow. Vagus nerve, safety signaling, autonomic balance, communication pathways. Our goal is to focus on restoring the movement, the communication across these major symptoms that help your body transition from survival to resilience. And maybe this is why I somehow, without knowing it, created my word for the year, resiliency, because this is what I end up diving into lately. Flow, freeing the nervous system. L, lymphatic flow, waste movement, immune circulation, inflammatory cleanup, fluid balance, drainage, bile flow. We work on liver digestion, detox when we work on the O, oxygen, organ, drainage flow. Colon, kidneys, elimination. And then we work on blood and oxygen flow, waste removal, so circulation, nitric oxide, oxygen delivery, metabolic resiliency. All these systems need to be functioning at optimal level because they're always communicating. So when one system becomes congested, that swamp versus the river flowing, we have metabolic chaos and we cannot restore metabolic harmony because everything works together. So we want to work on the nervous system to feel safe. And so go into that next time. But I just wanted to share with you a little more what I'm working on because I feel that it's really important to understand how we need to bring it all together to work on all the body systems to feel safe. And the body will respond, making sure we can get the information, the right message sent. Oxygen, nutrients, hormones, your immune system, your waste, energy, all needs to move efficiently through the system. Because if flow becomes blocked, inflammatory signals accumulate, your toxins are just recirculating, your lymph is just that stagnant, swampy, stinky flow, not flowing. And your bile is just slowing down. We need everything moving. We need oxygen delivery, mitochondria to function at optimal level to get us functioning. And so if your body remains stuck in this survival mode, the goal is not, I don't want you to be perfect. Our goal is to build, my word of the year again comes up, resiliency. My goal for you is to help you get the tools in your toolbox to be resilient and adaptable and to recover. The ability to respond to your stressors and return back to balance. Remember, we used to talk about acute stress versus chronic stress, and that's hormesis, that acute stress, and then you return back to balance. That's what we talk about, train first. We're not trying to force healing. We want to create the condition, create that environment where healing will become possible. So if you start to look at your own health and wellness, know that we're not perfect. Don't blame the aging process. If you have these just random symptoms, understand we can take ownership and do something different. Get results. Making sure we don't have flow impaired in your body. Making sure you're not adapting or settling and constantly just overwhelming the system. Checking in with your nervous system, measuring your heart rate variability, but understanding what that data even means. Your sleep scores. Everyone looks at their data, but I don't know if you really are using it to the fullest way to get the clues, what you can do differently. Or understanding you can do things differently and when, and some people just don't want to do it. Do I need to change the way I train? Your fueling. I think it's just not just think physical movement. To be fit and healthy from the inside out at a cellular level, we want cellular movement, physiological movement, and communication. We want that flow in our body. So just because you're exercising all the time doesn't mean you're fit on the inside. That terrain needs to be improved. So next episode, we'll go a little bit deeper into that flow and the terrain and talk about the vagus nerve. Thanks for listening. I know there's a lot of options out there with podcasts. I've been around a long time and I don't have a team to do this with, a marketing team. So if you could help share this podcast with others, leave it a good review if you can. It's just something I do because I'm passionate about it, but I know it's hard to get people to listen to the episodes these days because there's so many out there from when we started in 2012. So just remember, the future you is built through the signals you create today. So stay tuned for next week. I'll put the part 3, but I want you to stay curious, keep investigating, but get help, get guidance. I think what I find is so many of my clients, they're doing ChatGPT, AI research on everything, and they're getting overwhelmed and they're not getting proper guidance and course correction. So we can strive to thrive, to be fit and healthy from the inside out as we age. So this is for educational purposes only, not medical advice. Always partner with a qualified healthcare practitioner, especially if you have any complex medical conditions, taking medications, pregnant, all of that. But just making sure you get someone to help you and you're not just making this up on your own. So head to debbiepotts.net to learn more about my coaching programs, Pinoing metabolism testing, functional lab investigation, and the Future You Blueprint. Again, debbiepotts.net, and thanks for spending this time with me today. Have a great one. Until next time, go get some movement outside in the morning, fresh air with some nasal breathing, and do some good flow movement.
Thanks for listening to the Coach Debbie Potts Show. If today's episode sparked a light bulb moment, that's your sign to stop guessing and start building your personalized Future You blueprint. You can learn more or book a discovery call at www.debbiepotts.net. Be sure to follow the show on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Coach Debbie Potts. 2 T's. If this episode helped you, please subscribe, rate, and review. It's how we help more people age with strength, energy, and clarity. Until next time, remember, age is inevitable. How you age is not.